This is Todd Rundgren, brought to you by the CIA. Phase 2, yeah, like we didn't get it right the first time.
Oh, we did. But
We did, but, yeah.
We had some new ideas.
We have some new upgrades, and
Well, tell us about the upgrades.
well, we have singers now, which is one of the principal and I believe important upgrades, because everyone knows how much I lard my songs up with background vocals and such. So if there was one thing that was missing last year, it was some of the extra vocal accompaniment, and we've certainly taken care of that. Well, even on the very first Naz album, I was into an orchestra to the point that I ventured into arranging for a lot of players. And it was an interesting experience. The stuff I heard, while playable in some sense, I attributed to the wrong instruments often. And so when a copyist finally, took the charts that I had made and cleaned them up and made them playable by other players, discovered things like, I was making trumpet players play notes that they never could possibly reach, things like that. But yeah, from the very beginning, I had orchestral designs, things that I wanted to do with an orchestra. A lot of it comes from the kind of music that was in my house when I was growing up. My dad didn't like the kind of pop music that was on the radio. He listened mostly to contemporary classics and a lot of orchestral music. So it was, ingrained in me in a way. Mm-hmm. And on the very first 2 records I did, on both of them, there were big string arrangements. On my first solo album, I did a song with a large arrangement with other stuff on it. And on occasion, probably most notably on the album Nearly Human, where I arranged, for live performance. Everything was performed live in the studio, but you take a song like The Want of a Nail, and we've got a horn section, we got a string section, and plus singers and a bunch of other players. So, I enjoy arranging for a larger ensemble. My problem is I don't know how to read or write music, literally. I have to either do it on a MIDI program and then have it printed out, mm-hmm. or if I have to do it by hand, it just takes me forever. Yeah. Like the very first charts that I ever did, it just took me forever, writing it out by hand. So it's something that I like to hear, but is very painstaking for me. So the advantage of working with the Metropole Orchestra and with Tom Trapp is that I don't have to do that part. He'll just realize my ideas for all those players, and additionally, he won't write out of their range. He'll write within their range.
As a good artist.
Well, we're all, I think, a little bit overwhelmed, in the midst of rehearsals about all of the stuff that we have to kind of remember, and also achieving a kind of a balance or blend, I guess. At first everyone's just kind of worried about singing the right thing. And so, tomorrow we'll have an opportunity to maybe just sort of like put those kind of concerns out of our heads and like focus on how we sound, which I don't think we've actually kind of gotten to yet. We're not so much concerned about how we sound as whether we're singing the right notes and stuff like that. And also we're very much focused on, because of that process, we're very much focused on Steve Sidwell, the conductor. So I haven't had a whole lot of, interaction with the singers in terms of, while we're performing, we don't have eye contact because we're all facing this one guy, So I expect, by maybe tomorrow, we'll change the setup a little bit, move my microphone in place. That'll be more like when we actually perform it, and that way we can have a little bit more interaction with everybody, a little more eye contact. It's really important that, the background singers have that they sound like one thing, that they sound almost like one singer. And I'm sure once we're all confident that we're doing the right thing, everything's going to come together really well. It's always a big difference, the actual show, than the rehearsals. In rehearsals, you always know that you can make a mistake or something like that, and it really won't matter. And so your concentration level is nothing like when you're doing the show, when you've got an audience there to kind of, give you feedback about what you're doing. So I kind of suspend judgment all through rehearsal, because I know that everyone's just going to be in a different frame of mind when we go to perform it. Everyone's concentration is going to be much more acute, and our sense of each other is going to be much more acute, and also we've got someone to play to besides each other. We've got an audience who hasn't heard this before. I always have a good time in Amsterdam. I always look forward to coming here, and it's just one of my favorite cities in the world. I go out every night about 10 o'clock and I walk around for an hour or two, when the hectic part of the day is gone, and I just like to look at everything and absorb the atmosphere, and it's great that our rehearsal schedule allows me enough time as well, to just go out and be in the city. When are we going to do it again? When's the next one?
I was just going to say, is there room for negotiation?
Yeah, when's my next trip to Amsterdam?
Phase 3.
Phase 3, okay. I'm going to be all over the house doing this. People don't know where I am. Literally. They won't know where I'm coming from. No, it's... I was wondering how the orchestra was going to pull it off, because the original version is nothing but a bunch of samples, all kind of in a digital program. I never thought that it would ever be performed, but when I realized that records don't just hold music; they hold all kinds of sound. You can hold any kind of sound on it, and it's really fun when we get a bunch of people together to try and meet the challenge of doing something that really was never intended to be performed live.
Yeah.
The other thing about the performance that's different for me from the rehearsals is I can't really hear much of what's going on way back there behind the drums. I'm right up front. The drums are, pretty much covering up everything. But when we get into the Paradiso and the amplification is on, and then you can hear everything in the orchestra, and it just sounds, that's another thing that makes it satisfying. Go through rehearsals and I'm just kind of straining to hear little parts, wondering if they're there, and then when we do the show, you can hear everything, and then it all just comes together in a way that, that it's not meant to in rehearsal, you're supposed to save it, and so it really comes together when we do the show.
Thanks for being here. We'll go to
Thank
phase
you,
3,
buddy.
And you see, the CIA isn't that bad.
Your CIA isn't that bad.